welcome to this video. Here we will talk about Leetcode problem 1 edit distance. Well, this problem could be found on other website as well, but I will first explain the problem and then the solution. So this is 1 edit distance. This is a modification of edit distance which we have talked about with this back. So I have a video titled edit distance that gives the number of operations we do on a given string to convert it to a target string. This question is also related to strings. Here we have two strings, string source string yes and target string t. We have to find if both of them are 1 edit distance apart. It means that you have to find if we can convert source string yes to target string t by doing just one operation, and this operation can be inserting a character, deleting a character, or replacing a character with a new one. So let's take an example of a source is equals to AB and the target is ACB. So is it one distance, edit distance apart? Obviously we can insert C between A and B and we get ACB, so we return true. One remarkable property of 1 edit distance is the edit if yes is the source and T is the target, and if the pair ST is one edit distance apart, then we can, if we take T as a source and S as a target, so we swap the source and target, even then the edit distance will be 1. So let's say starting from ACB is input, we want to go to AB. What to do? We just delete the C, so just one operation and we are able to get this one. So it is symmetric distance perhaps, and we will use this concept for reducing the time complexity of the algorithm, for making it slightly better and cleaner. So for example, there is 1 2 0 3 1 2 1 3. So is it one distance apart? Clearly yes, because all the numbers are same except the third one, and we can replace 0 by 1 to get 1 2 1 3. Okay, how about CAB and AD? So let's see if we can. Obviously not. For getting this AD from CAB, we need to replace B by D and we have to delete C. We need at least 2 operations and not one to convert the CAB to AD. Okay, so this is, so I initially told you that we can swap the source and the target and shouldn't make any difference in our inference. So here we do some check. So let's consider an example ACAB and AAD. Okay, so the first example we do is we check the length of source S and length T. If the source is longer than the T, we swap S and T. We just do it for programming convenience. So we want to use the shorter array string is the source. We want to start from the smaller one. So if the length of S is larger, we swap it, so the target becomes, the smaller one becomes the source. Okay, after that, so if we swap, so here the target was ACAAD, which is of length 3, and the source is ACAB, which has a length of 4. So here the source is larger, so we just swap it, so our new source become AAD and our new target become ACAB. So this is how we will do the programming. In the next step, we compute the length of source and target. So we see 3 and 4, so it is 1, so the length is just 1. We check if the length difference of S and T is larger than 1. Let's say it's 2 or 3, then clearly it is not 1 edit distance, because two increment of 2 difference of 2 in length means we have to either delete 2 elements or insert 2 elements, which is at least 2 operation and not 1. So we just check the length difference, and if it is 1, we return false. So this is second cross check. Okay, now the third cross check, if let's say the length is either equal or the difference is just 1, which is possible with the possible insertion. So we now compare the S and T. So this S and T are the new source and new target after swapping. Okay, so we compare the character by character, and if whenever they differ, whenever the character in source and that differ, we do something. Okay, so for example, when we do AAD and ACAB, the A and A are same, the first one, so this condition not satisfied. Okay, so we do not do anything. We go to the next one and we find A and C, So clearly A and C are different, so condition satisfies. Now we will compare the source element I plus 1 onwards. So it means we start looking at I plus 1, the next elements, and until the end. So the next element in S after A will only D, and the next element in T after the C is AB. So we are comparing D, remaining D in S source, to AB in the target, and clearly they are not the same. Okay, clearly they are not the same. So now we compare also, since source is smaller, we compare the I plus 1 to in, means the D remaining, the no no we compare the S I plus D. So since source can be smaller or equal to the target in length, we now take the current element as well. So current including current element until the end, so A and D, and we compare it with A and B. So is it same? It is not. So since the first condition failed, that we cannot compare the remaining elements in source and target, they are different. And when we took the current element from the source and all the past elements and compare it with the all the past element target, they are also different. It means they cannot compare. It means there is more than one difference. We need at least more than one operation to convert the source substring to the target substring, and that is why we return a false. So it will be false. Okay, so if I is equals to, so for this AAD and ACAB, we run through the algorithm. So I is equals to 0, the SI is A and TI is A, so both are same. So if fails, because for difference if will be true. For I is equals to 1, we have the A from the source and C from target, they are different, and if is true. And now after that we compare the other left out elements in source, which is D, to the left out in T, which is AB. So which D and AB, they are different, so it becomes false. And the next one we do is taking the present and the later ones AD, and we compare it with AB. Okay, and then AD and AB again becomes false, and the two false makes the false and return. So clearly we have to return false, because this has happened. Okay, so let's imagine that the two strings are exactly the same. Let's say AAD and AAAD, triple AD. What will happen? The SI is equals to TI will always satisfy. So S and T will be all the same, and when it won't be same, so it will always satisfy. So if SI and TI are identical, the if will always fail, and we will reach the end of the function. There we have to return the true. So in case when we all our conditions are satisfied, for example with the length difference is less than 1 and the numbers are identical, all the digits are identical, first and from source and first and in the target are identical, and since we make the largest string as target, let's say the target has one extra, so we return true, because we know there is just one difference, we can just insert it. Okay, so now we implement it in terms of code. So is one edit distance, so this is a boolean function that return a boolean true false and takes the source as and target T as true strings. So if length of yes is larger than length of T, so when the source is lower, we swap the roles. So we return self dot is one edit distance T comma S. So we call the same function with the reverse roles of T and S. We do it because in our code we try to use a source which has a smaller size. Okay, it makes the analysis much easier. As I said, the one edit distance is symmetrical, so it does not make any difference. Next we check if identical. If both are identical, then there is no distance for sure, or if their length has a difference of larger than 2 or 2, then they won't be one edit distance, because we are interested in just one edit distance here. So if S is equals to 2, it means it is identical to T, or absolute value of length of S minus length of T is greater than 1. In both cases we return false. Okay, so now after this stage, it means we have a length difference between source and T just 1, or less than 1. So it can be same length, or it could be slightly target is 1 larger than the source, because we have swapped the strings to make sure that the source is smaller. Okay, so here half of the problem is already solved. Now we will iterate through the length of s. So we iterate from index 0 to n minus 1 if n is the length of string yes, and now we compare si to ti. So we compare all element of s to all elements of t, and t can be one element larger than s or of the same size. So if it's satisfied, if the elements are identical here, let's say all elements of s are identical to all elements of t, and then t has one extra element, so in that case the if statement will fail, always fail. And because this loop is determined with the length of s, and we will reach the end where we return true. Okay, but if things are different, if the characters in yes and t are different for the any index in yes, we will return the r of 2 even. So we will compare the later elements in string to the later elements in target, and the source and target, the later parts are exactly the same, we return true, because the current element is already different in source and target, and if the later ones are exactly same, it means there is just one edit distance. Okay, and if we cannot do it, there is another event which can be true, is we compare the source starting from the current till the end, and we compare it with the target from the after the current value, because target can have slightly one distance. Okay, so this is to make sure that let's say the source is smaller and the target is larger, but they have the same element. For example, a b a, and then the target is b b b a c. So sometimes can happen then the later parts of the string s and t are similar, and there is just one distance. So if any one of them is true, we return true, otherwise we go and return true again. I encourage you to go through this code and try to run through some example. So for example, here in our case of the past example a, where we were comparing AAD with AAC. So a and a are same, so we don't do anything, and a and c are different, so we first compare d with ab, which is again different, and we return false from that. Second condition is we compare ad with ab, because t can have slightly one element extra, so that's why we take the present also here. Second comparison, ad and ab, and again it is different, and so we return false. Otherwise, if any one of them is true, for example if it were ad and this were also ad, we would have returned true, because then we know that both are same, there is just one edit distance, one extra element. Okay, so this was the one edit distance code. I think you can see the main logic is there are 3 different logic here, and all of them are important to make the correct code. So now at this point I'm presenting the code which I typed in Leetcode IDE. This is similar to code you can type anywhere in the Python environment. So this is one edit distance. Here I check if the length of s is larger, I swap the target and source. So the source is always assumed to have slightly smaller size, and if the size difference is greater than 2, we have to return false, because then at least 2 or more operations will be needed for conversion, and if they're identical, again we return false, because the edit distance will be 0 in that case. So at the third stage we have the length difference only by 0 or 1, so we compare for all the index in the source, we compare the source characters to the target characters, and if they are same, we go and return true. If they are different, because we compare the left out elements, later elements of source to the later elements of target using this expression, and if we fail to do so, we take the present and later elements of the source and compare it with later elements of target. It's very important to know that as I colon shows the elements in source starting from index I to till the end, and ti plus 1 colon shows the characters in target starting from I plus 1 to till, because t can have one length extra in some cases. So that's why the first one is assuming that when we have the same length, and the second one is like when we can have the target one larger than the source. Okay, so these two conditions, and this is the short code. I encourage you to pause the video and try to copy this code if you want. I believe that this code was comprehensive for you and you were able to understand it. In case of any queries or any follow-up questions, please comment below this video. I will be more than happy to answer it. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please subscribe the channel so that any new content will be notified to you. And also please share it with juniors, men, and also to your friends who might be interested in practicing coding interviews. And thank you so much for watching. Take care until we meet again.